Well, hello again, Personal Health and Wellness. Chapter 4 is all about how we're going to develop our muscle. And one of the things that came out in Chapter 4 was the muscle fiber type. And if you watched the previous video, you heard me kind of allude to this, especially when I was kind of hitting on bioenergetics, and I said, you know, you get into a steady state of activity, oxidative phosphorylation, you're using the type 1 muscle fibers. And so one of the things I wanted to clarify with this, and this is really the crux of muscle fiber type, is that you don't have bicep muscles that only have type 2 or fast twitch muscle fibers. You don't have quadricep muscles that only have type 1 or slow twitch muscle fibers. What you have is a muscle that has a random and very genetically determined delineation of muscle fiber type. And so each muscle will have some type 1s, some type 2s. And if you did any outside studies, you found that type 2 actually has a subdivision, type A and type B. So what we noticed is that all muscles have like I said, a random but very genetically determined delineation of muscle fiber type. And so all these muscles really kind of do a little bit of both, but one of the muscle fiber types will dominate and really will kind of dictate what we're able to do. If you look at a marathon runner versus a weightlifter, you kind of see the differences in their muscle fiber types. The marathon runner being long, skinny, not a lot of skeletal muscle, where the Olympic weightlifter will have a lot of muscle. Their joints and their appendages just don't look as long because they're stacked in all this meat. And so you can probably look from there and say, I can kind of tell there's a lot more muscle there. Probably a lot more type 2 muscle on the weightlifter, a lot more type 1 on the marathon runner. Another analogy I'll give you is this. If you take a chicken and you take a goose, you know the migratory habits of both birds. A goose will come from Canada all the way here to Poto, Oklahoma, where a chicken will go from one part of the yard about 10 to 12 feet, and that's about the extent of their flying. And so if you think about it, one really needs to fly a long way, right? The goose. And if you take a goose breast and you open it up, you're going to find that it's very dark. It has a lot of blood in it, and that blood is there to kind of get that goose from Canada all the way down here to Poto. But if you look at a chicken and you open it up and you look at the breast meat, you notice that it's very white. It doesn't have a lot of blood. And so you can quickly see that there is a different look from type 1 to type 2 muscle fibers. That chicken flies very fast, very quickly, but only for a short amount of time. Remember, duration and intensity, they have a direct relationship. One of the other things that came up in this chapter, it talked about hypertrophy. And hypertrophy is a very serious concept that we have to talk about a lot in physical therapy and sports medicine as well. And that is the fact that the muscles truly do grow. I mean, we've all known people who've wanted to grow muscle. And if you're an 18, 19-year-old male and you go to the gym a lot, your ears really perked when I brought this up. The idea that muscles grow is based on the concept of hypertrophy. Literally, components of the muscle, specifically the myosin and the actin, will multiply inside the muscle. Now, that's one of the components of the muscle. A lot of people will say, well, I'll get more muscle fibers, and that's simply not the truth. That's called hyperplasia, and it doesn't happen. We know that that doesn't happen because we've looked at cadavers, and you get what God gives you from birth, and there's no more. Now, what happens is you get more myosin and actin, that's called hypertrophy, or you get less myosin and actin, that's called atrophy. And it's all about, if you don't use it, you lose it. Reversibility, that was a concept that was brought up in chapter 2 or chapter 3. Let's talk real quick about the things that you can train. Strength, endurance, and then power. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at the concept of muscle strength, meaning how much can I move as far as a load over a distance. With endurance, you're looking at how many times can I move that load over a distance. And then with power, you're looking at how fast can I move that load over a distance? And you can train each one of these variables of the muscle. It really depends on your intensity. That is the dictating factor of how you train for strength, endurance, and power. If you really want to get stronger muscles, then you're going to want to use a repetition and set that's about between 8 and 10. If you want endurance, you can use a repetition that is anywhere between 15 and 50, because the more reps, the more endurance you're going to get. Now, if you want power, what you really need is a lot of resistance with just a few reps, but you want explosive speed with that. And so a good example of a power workout would be plyometrics or box jumps. That's what's going to develop that. And you're not going to do a whole bunch of them, especially if you start stacking up the resistance. One of the other things that comes in is, how do I gauge how much intensity I should be, or how much resistance I should be using? Go to your books, look up the repetition maximum. That gives you a great reference on how to gauge my intensity. So how many times a week should I do this? Well, ultimately that comes up to you. I know a lot of people who, they're gym rats. They want to be in the gym all the time. So what they do is they go 5-6 days a week, sometimes 7, maybe, I don't know. The idea of going that often, though, is only according to goals. It is not necessary to go that often. Your book says 3 to 4 times a week is plenty. And so if you're going to do it that way, then you want to follow a more moderate and a little bit more prudent way of lifting weights. Last thing is your post-workout protein. This was at the very end of the chapter, and I could not finish this video without talking on this, because this is such a hot button in the fitness world anyways. And you can read the book. It says definitely get your post-workout protein. I'm a fan of that. What I'm not a fan of is, because of your age and your market, the organizations that make synthetic protein market it directly to you. And so what you need to think about is, should I really be buying a protein that is synthetically made in a lab, or maybe should I just consume protein that is as natural as meat that I can buy in a deli, or beans that I can buy at the store? You know what else you can do is you can always just go right to Brahms, grab a chocolate milk. It's the best, I'm telling you, and it's a great protein source. The idea that you have to buy a pre-made, marketed, packaged protein is just irrelevant. You can buy natural source proteins and probably get more benefits. The thing is they sell you on the fact that they've chemically engineered these to be better proteins. And frankly, you know what? The proteins that are best are the ones that we can go and consume from a renewable resource every day. So I would tell you, don't waste your money. Look at a way to get your protein in a more natural way. But maybe you would disagree. If you do, you have the right to disagree, and you can write me on the video summary and we can debate that. I love debating this topic. Let me know, write your video summary, and I'll see you in chapter 5. Thanks.